Hi everyone, it's Cammy here. Thank you so much for listening to this week's Heart and Hand. If you happen to listen to the shows on the Apple, Android, or Spotify platforms, could you please give Heart and Hand a follow on there? They may also ask you to write a wee review, and if you could write us a really good one, we would massively appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. This is your extra show for the week. My name is Cammy Bell. I am your host, as always, on Extra. And I've got a very special treat for all of you as we're about to talk about last night's win over Ross County at Ibrox, what it means for the league table, and also look forward to Sunday's trip to Perth against St Johnstone. By involving in that conversation, I want to say the sage of wisdom and calm thinking here on Heart and Hand, and that is my very, very good friend, Mr. Alan Bradley. Alan, thank you very much for coming along. We'll unpack what we've been talking about and what we watched last night at Ibrox in due course. But as you were just explaining to me before we started recording, you do have some experience in title races.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sage of wisdom. To be honest with you, Cammy, anything. I don't care. I'm going with anything. But no, but it's funny. I think you and I we actually met just before getting into the game yesterday, and it was the old expectations. How many goals? I just want the 3 points and so on. But I was having a wee look back in my lifetime in terms of title races that we've won 24 of them. Since I've been going to see Rangers, I've seen us winning in 21 of them. Obviously, unfortunately, others haven't, but to see us winning 21 titles, it gets like this, Cammy. And as you will get into, the reaction to yesterday and so on. But aye, God, for once actually getting older and experienced, it might help me a wee bit, yeah.
Yeah, well, listen, I think it helps you every single day, Alan. Do you know what I mean? Avoid, fall risks, etc. Do you know what I mean? Take your, what I assume is a bundle of medication as well that keeps you alive. You've
I've got
survived the
I've got the
winter.
heating on. I've got the
You've
heating on, the
survived
big
the
slipper
winter.
and that. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Right, listen, Alan, let's get into it because we've obviously got quite a fair bit to discuss. We knew going into the game last night against Ross County that a 3-0 win, or a 3-goal winning margin, I should say, would be able to put us back to top of the league. It's been interesting, I think, because in a slight microcosm, I think that you've seen quite an interesting optic of what the Rangers fan base is like within the last 24 hours, I believe, because my viewpoint to it was, I know that the people were coming at it from a perspective of we just win. Of course we can just win. I think
Yeah.
that there's a additional element, however, of treating each team with the I was going to say the respect they deserve. In some teams, obviously, we won't do that because we never will. But it's a managerless Ross County that, let's face it, has not been playing well. I honestly thought going into the game last night, okay, 3-0 is fine. I'd like 4 or 5. And then I probably went through that range of looking back on that now and having a little bit of reflection since the game last night, this morning, talking to people, that of course the win was ultra important, but right now it's just about maintaining the consistency that Philippe Clement has come in. How are you approaching it last night? How did you feel kind of coming out of Ibrox? Where are you now? Has your opinion
Yeah.
changed? Are you still pretty level-headed with it all?
It changed on the supporters bus. I was doing my usual look. The extra goals will be great. That's the icing on the cake. I just want us to win, and I know that's bearing in mind the way St Johnson were at St Johnson. Sorry, the way that they actually were at the time, Ross County, and as you say, managerless and so on. But someone coming in, you think to yourself, we're going to get loads, but there was the wee sensible head just going, Alan, I think after this is maybe 13 games to go. Okay, it'll be good if we go at the top, but quite frankly, same points as Celtic, and obviously it turns out kind of goal difference the same. That'll do. So again, they were going, here we go, typical Bradley. Okay, we then get into the ground, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking 4 would be great, 5 would be. And I think my emotions changed during the game, and then I get we get the first goal, and I'm doing the arithmetic, and then we lose that stupid goal. I then get angry and so on, then get frustrated, and you just felt in the ground itself. And me personally too, I lost my objectivity in my calm, old, experienced head. Then obviously the way the game went through, and at the end we got the goal, and I was kind of all right. I then looked on chat, and geez, it was as if we were now 9 points behind Celtic. That was absolutely horrendous. We hadn't played well, and I get frustrated at all the chances, all that stuff, Cammy. But then I think I even put in a wee bit about, hold on a minute, where were we 2, 3 months ago? Where are we now? I know it's disappointing we never got the goals, but come on, there are all these games to go. And to be honest with you, that's where and quite frankly, see, even if you're sitting with maybe a goal behind them, but on the same level of points, if anything, the pressure's blinking still on Celtic. And because Phil Clement, now I've got a wee left hand side here, I've got Clement, and he's doing the old, he's really wise, he's rational, he's objective, he's experienced as well. Maybe not with the pressure at Ibrox, but he's really experienced. I've got the other side of where I flip into during the game, over emotional, unrealistic, short termism, knee jerk, and so on. I'm now back, Cammy, in. By the way, look at us now. We're sitting same points. They're going to be panicking over the other side. All we need to do is just keep winning our games, and ultimately we'll win it. If we can just keep doing it, what we've done the past, so many. Come to Ibrox, by the way, beat them at Ibrox, and then we're really talking. But again, because of all the kind of there'll be ups and downs as well between now and the end, and I've experienced that too. But my goodness, Cammy, we're so far ahead of where I thought we would be when Philippe Clement came in now. The whole Europe thing, what we've done, obviously the League Cup, this in the league as well, going for the Scottish Cup. I'm sorry I sound like a big fanboy cheerleader, but I think I'm absolutely fine with it. And who knows, by the end of Sunday, as long as we're still winning our games, Cammy, I'll just take it for the next so many months. Yeah.
Listen, no, I totally get it. I agree with the majority there, but one thing that I do want to call out, and I'm really glad that you mentioned the League Cup final, right? Because one of the things that has probably struck me, and by the way, I don't want anyone to think who's listening to this that I'm excluding from this, right? Because almost everything that you've just said, Alan, I went through last night, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The objectivity, then the lack of reason when
Yeah.
you concede against Ross County, and one of the things I want to mention when we're talking about the League Cup in particular, and where this team is and what the manager has instilled, is we've went from a position, Alan, right, of Celtic dropping points, us being unable to capitalise on that possible advantage.
Yeah.
There's been times where I think we've had weak chins, and as a result of that, we haven't been able to play the football that we know that we can play on a consistent and higher standard uh, on a regular basis.
Yes, yeah.
And it's amazing to me, and I think that's always worth taking a pause, right? If you take a breath and think, last night we weren't taught. I don't believe that anyone felt that that game was in doubt, in the build up to it. I genuinely don't.
I agree. Yep.
However, there has been times very recently under the previous management where that felt like it was absolutely in question, because we'd seen that team and we'd seen a setup and a lack of process and a lack of system that allowed our opponents to come out against us and for us to be unable to close that gap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's something I want to talk about specifically, and we will get into a little bit of the kind of game breakdown and stuff as well. But I want to link this into what we were just talking about there, Alan, because there was a period in the game last night, and this probably would have happened not far away for you, actually, for where you sit in the ground. It was the opening period of the game. We were already 1-0 up by this stage because it was about 20 minutes or so. And Todd Cantwell took a throw in and he passed it back to Red Van Yilmaz, who then in turn played it back the way. Now, probably a conscious, safety manoeuvre, nothing necessarily too wrong with that. And I remember watching it and Cantwell going crazy because he wants the ball getting played forward. I think the manager has said to the team the ball has to go forward. But there was another incident with a Dessers chance, the one where he took a kind of a touch and his inner thigh, he trapped the ball really well from a high ball. The keeper did come out, and we'll come back to the keeper, by the way. But the keeper came out more or less snuffed out any chance that Dessert had at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Tondo is behind him, and you actually saw the two of them giving each other verbal.
That's right. Yes, yeah.
Now, the reason why I mentioned both of those incidents, and by the way, I'm fairly sure they did happen in other parts of the park. I'm sure when I've talked about this to people in the last night or so, last 24 hours or so, people have mentioned there was other incidents like that. For me, that shows an absolute determination that, if I'm going to be honest, has been missing from some of our players, some of the guys who've been there longer term, but an absolute commitment that we have to ensure that a lack in standards, a drop, any sloppiness, etc. You and I have both seen, Alan, brilliant Rangers teams, successful Rangers teams, with players in them who have absolutely turned around and had a proper go at each other. Now, people listening to this might think I'm wanting something equivalent to Lee Boyd, Kieran Dyer at Newcastle. I don't want them kicking lumps out each other. But what I mean is turning around to the guy next to you and saying that isn't good enough. And there's been so much periods recently where we've been so passive, we haven't had that oomph, that level of desire. That really, really pleased me last night. That's one of the indicators for me, Alan, that says we can go in this title race, we can go that distance, and most importantly, make sure that we're there to support, to encourage, but also to challenge each other. And listen, that's some big fundamentals of a winning team.
And I think it's healthy. As you say, I saw it. And in fact, I think I was moaning at the time with Dessers because he just kind of hit it. And as you say, it stopped. You saw him and Matondo, with a bit Dessers screaming back at him. But again, that is healthy. And I saw the Cantwell one and some other ones because, as you say, there's nothing wrong with, for goodness sake, in the wee argument, but as long as it doesn't get out of control. But as you say, it shows a real passion and that's definitely been missing for ages. And this manager, I think he's instilled that within them. And again, it's good because we always talked as well about there's no really that many leaders now. But now, if there even people like Matondo and some of these other guys, they're doing it, that tells you a lot, Cammy, doesn't it? That people are fired up. And it's like, by the way, we need to win this one, and my standards can't drop as well because that manager, I just know for a fact now, if I don't play well and we don't, I could be out. Come on, you need to, and it can only be healthy, as I say, as long as it's kind of controlled and so on, Cammy. But no, absolutely, I would agree with that. Yeah.
It was a really strong start, Alan, last night. And again, I think Ibrox was in good voice last night. I think that there was a really good atmosphere on the ground. It changes, not long, not long after the Ross County equaliser, but a great start. Cyril Dessers puts us ahead after, like I say, I think people had just come in and taken their seats. And we're about 5 minutes on the clock.
Great finish, really
he finishes off
composed,
a great finish. Now we are going to talk about George Wickens because it's impossible for us not to. Looking back at that goal, a great ball over by Tav, a great touch off the top of the shoulder by Dessers, then a nice little controlled touchdown with the head. Wickens, I think, Alan, I'm not taking anything away for the finish, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on this. I think he comes out a little bit too quickly, but irrespective of all of that, within that whole movement of play, Cyril Dessers has to make some very quick, very accurate decisions, and he finishes it beautifully with a lofted ball right over the goalkeeper. I love those types of goals. It reminds me a lot of like the Nacho Novo type goals that we would see on some of the highlight reels. But I love this finish.
I love that where you don't have
It's
time to
exactly
think. You're right, Cammy.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's
and I think
instinctive.
that's the same, and it was like, say, like Lovenkrantz would do them, or as you say, Novo. My biggest fear at times was in the too much time, and it was a wee bit like that sometimes with Dessers as well, isn't it? He's got a wee bit where he instinctively does it. He can actually, but he finished that. He also had a really nice one, I think, down. I don't even know if it hit the post or whatever, but it was that old, like the Betis one, where he gets the ball, he beats one boy, turns him the other way, manages to put it through. came really close. But at that point in time, I was doing my usual Easton closure. What a player! Told you it was, because at
Yeah.
that point everything was going pretty well, and then obviously it changed in, I don't know, in quarter an hour and things. But no, overall, really, I was really pleased with it, Cammy. Yeah,
Listen, I'm not going to go into every single chance that we've had because,
no,
frankly, if you started listening to this pod on Thursday night, you'd probably miss the St Johnstone game. Um, I always like to think that we are fair on heart and hand, Alan. Right? I think
Mhm.
that we try and be as balanced as we can. We call a spade a spade. Um, I know that people have said that we were really profligate in front of goal last night, and I agree with that to an extent. Right? I think Cyril Dessers ended
Yeah.
up scoring his harder chances and missing the easier ones. But we have to take our hats off to George Wickens in the Ross County goal last night. Came in January. I thought he played brilliantly last night. Um, he was just behind everything. He was big when he had to be. Again, I don't want to wax on too much about opposition players, etc. But um, watching the highlights last night when I got home, actually, apparently he has now, since Opta Stats began, for one of the top flight keepers in this country. He beat the record for most amount of saves. It was at 14. It's now at 19, thanks to him. Now, I've got zero doubt. I've got no idea if Ross County did a man in the match last night, but he's won it by an absolute country mile.
Cammy, it's the best keeper the best performance that I've seen against us. Okay, at times you were going, oh, they're just kind of, they've kind of hit it straight at him and so on. My goodness, he must have had about 4 or 5 really amazing saves, and it just looked like one of those. It's like the kind of Andy Gorham type. He's going to save everything. Ultimately, we would go through, but and it could realistically it could have been 8-1, Cammy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's and
and
some cracking saves from him. Yeah.
it's one of those games, right, where had we still been playing 3 hours later, it still would have been the
I
same.
know.
However, if we played Ross County on Friday night, it would have been an 8-0. But listen, do you know what? Let's take the positives.
Yeah.
It's all about being able to create those chances in the first instance. And I think if you are, as attacking as we were last night,
Mhm.
especially in the opening phase, right? I think just before the Ross County equaliser, I felt that we really were in a decent gear at that point. We do equalise, however, Alan.
Oh,
Eamon
yeah.
Brophy out in the wing is in a little bit of a tussle with Connor Goldson. There's a blind whipped ball put in, um, and Ross County equalise through Simon Murray, who I think, again, it's just a straightforward finish. We don't cover ourselves in glory here,
No,
right? I
no.
know people have said it's Goldson's fault for not stopping the cross. Other people have said it's Suter's fault for not being able to try and track his man. Again, like I say, a poor goal to lose. Jack Butland left with absolutely no chance, nothing we could do there. However, I think the other thing that we need to think about here is this is the kind of thing that, yes, we can go forward, yes, we can create all these chances, but ultimately we need to make sure that we don't leave ourselves a little bit weak at the back. Regular listeners to this pod will know the Aberdeen goal, which again, not dissimilar, just a punt forward and then
Yep.
we seem to get caught out a little bit. I actually put down to really good striking play by Miovski. This one does have a couple of real points of failure. We need to tidy this up a little bit just to give us some confidence at the back, I feel.
Yes, I think so. And I'm talking about me being objective and then emotional. I think during the game after that, every time I get a corner, I'm shouting, come on, Golson and Suter, you owe us one, which obviously in the end, but you know what I mean? And they were going, God's sake, Alan, I'm going between
Nice
the
and
two of
rational.
them.
Nice and rational.
I know, it's amazing how, as I say now, look at it, I'm like, everything's fine. But no, I would agree. And as you say, the likes of the Aberdeen one, and it was similar to them going through, is it Pittodrie, the Celtic one at Ibrox and things. So we really do. We can't afford to, because when you get to title run-ins and so on, and it's going to be again the pressure again is going to build and build. There's going to be games coming where you can't give away cheap goals like that.
And I'm glad to say that our persistence and not only our persistence, but also the blatant Ross County time wasting
Oh
paid
yeah,
off
yeah.
for us because um, Cyril Dessers puts us back in front just before the break, Alan. Again, there was a number of chances that Dessers had.
Hmm.
Again, Matondo really unlucky with a couple of them, and a few others as well peppered the goal. But This one I felt was just another another chance that looked really hard to do. A great ball this time, great cross coming in from Tav.
Yeah.
Dessers gets in the end of it. Might take a slight deflection, however, but ultimately, the quality of the cross coming in does a lot of the work for him. He gets a great wee finish on him. Um, we're now back in, and I think, and I hate this cliche of it being a great time to score, right? But I think it
It's
actually was
true.
ideal for us because it bit Ross County in the arse in terms of being able to try and time waste as much as he did, which, by the way, we need to do something about because it is ridiculous. I mean, Aberdeen were horrendous at it as well. But part that to one side. Rangers go in at the break, 2-1 up. It's one of those games, and I think, watching it back, Alan, now you never felt it was out of our hands. You never felt it was out of control, but we deserved the lead, right? I don't want to sound self-entitled, but we did deserve the lead because of the amount of chances that we'd had. It just felt good to be able to go in, and I think the manager probably would have continued. I think he made the right decision bringing Dessers back out for the second half. A lot of people were talking, take him off at half time, get Silva on. He scores that goal, and again, like you say, his confidence must be sky high now. Do you know what I mean? He has missed chances,
Yeah.
but he's also been able to get us the lead twice so far in the first 45 minutes.
And I'm not for 1 minute everyone comparing them, but as I've said in many pods, I mean, McCoist, Ali used to maybe miss 2 or 3 a game, score one, miss four, and so on. Obviously, he misses more, Dessers, but again, ultimately, the guy's got two. He has got 2 goals. His attitude, as we've always said, I think his attitude is great, isn't it? The way that he does keep plugging away and so on, because a lot of people would just suddenly shrink. So. No, I agree with you. What I thought was really pleasing as well, again with the cold light of day, the way we were attacking as well, Cammy, it wasn't that Beale or some of the other stuff where it's putting 36 crosses into these big centre halves. I know there was a lot coming in, but there was a lot of trying to play through, a lot of trying to, kind of find the spaces and so on. And if you do look at a lot of the chances as well, were created by good football and good movement and so on. So definitely a lot of positives within there, yeah.
Rangers come back at the break. There is a change with Cortez coming on from Matondo. Matondo, I felt I could understand what he was trying to do last night, Alan. I think he was unlucky. I think he needs to change his footwear because, Christ, if he slipped once, he slipped about 10 times. But again, like you say, he's useful, Rabbi Matondo. I know you could put question marks around his finishing. He was incredibly unlucky with 2 shots in particular because he loves that coming in off the left-hand side, having a good strike of it with his right foot. He was whisked by the keeper's left-hand post in one instance. Another one, again, like I say, hits the upright. He was very unlucky, in my opinion. Again, I think it's fair to say that he has been at the club for a good wee while now. We should be getting a tune out of him. The manager is, I believe, in terms of what you can do with him. But Cortez, for me,
a far upgrade.
Honestly, really, really love the guy. What I think I like about him best, right, is it's not just necessarily this idea of him being able to take on his man. Now, I know, and you know, right, we've seen phenomenal Rangers greats being able to do that, and they get bums off seats, and it's great to watch. I think what I like even more about him, Alan, is that he chases down balls. He does the hard work. He's absolutely going to graft. He doesn't allow it to run out of play. If he thinks he can recover it, then he absolutely will. There was one point last night where he actually fell, similar to Matondo, but fell, and then he was straight back up again as soon as he could try and recover the ball. He just doesn't stop, and he's got a great energy to be able to try and come into it. Now, there's 2 things to that. First of all, I think it gives us an option out there that we've not had from a really productive standpoint in quite a long while. And the other thing is if we are going to potentially rotate him a bit with Matondo, if we're not necessarily going to start him, but being able to try and bring him on, I'm telling you right now, whether he plays on the left-hand side or plays on the right-hand side, any of their fullbacks watching that will go, Jesus, this guy's a handful, and I'm not looking forward to him coming on.
I think the other strength that he's got as well that I've noticed, Cammy, is the upper body strength, and he doesn't get shoved off. Typically wingers and all that, they just get kind of brushed aside. There's a few times where he get in, you think he's going to get a bit tousy in there. he comes out, he holds them good with both feet and so on. And he also plays the simple stuff. I think when he first appeared, maybe in his first substitution, and he came on as well, I liked the way that he just, a wee bit of experience, play the simple thing, get into the rhythm. But each time now he's just get progressively better. It's great, isn't it? And as you say, I think he'd be comfy playing on both sides. He could probably even come in a wee bit narrower too, but over in that kind of far side from us, over in the kind of the Copeland and so on at Sandy Jardin, it must be really good over there. Just every time he gets the ball now, and even the beating maybe one or two, cutting back as well. I don't know. He just looks such an intelligent player. Again, it's early on, but all the signs at the moment are really, really good, Cammy.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, really, really like him, as I say. Later on in the game, as I say, we get to about 20 minutes to go. Alan Fabio Silva comes on for Cyril Dess, or Scott Wright comes on for Ross McCausland. Ross McCausland, I thought, cut a bit of a frustrated figure last night. I think he was getting a bit disheartened with where his final ball was. I suppose the best compliment I can pay to Ross McCausland is that he's not getting as much protection as he would do normally as a Rangers youth player trying to break into the first 11, because he's now in the first 11. So I actually think that within reason, it's okay to give him a little bit of criticism, not obviously go overboard with him, because I think he's playing a hell of a lot of games. I think he's provided us an answer out in the right-hand side, even as an outlet. I think a lot of people would say that sometimes his final ball is what maybe lets him down. But if he keeps trying and keeps plugging away, keeps working on that, especially under this manager who you've seen develop players, he quite clearly believes in Ross McCausland as well, given the amount of time that he's had. It's fine for him to be able to try and do that. He's playing a lot of football at the moment. We have to protect the lad. We have to make sure that his development continues on an upward trend. We need to make sure that he doesn't get disheartened with this. But what I will say is that if we win this league at the end of the season, the introduction of Ross McCausland will be a very big part in that.
In that small period of time, Cammy, from Betis away or wherever, where you really saw, oh my goodness, so naive, and they exposed them. In this very short period of time, it's amazing how he's up that side of his game too. He is looking far more confident. He's having the odd, like wingers do, the odd kind of inconsistency and so on. But you're right. I think there was a moment last night too where he ended up getting a header at the back post there as he came all the way
He did,
back.
yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, now we're talking with that laddie, because before you wouldn't have had him. It was like, who cleared that? Oh, it's the wee fella. So I think his progress has been really good. And as you say, this manager, let's not kind of go on, but my goodness, in terms of developing people, it really looks so good, Cammy.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, I mean, I'm incredibly precious, right, about our homegrown players and being able to see those players come through the rank and stuff as well. I don't like this idea of being able to chuck them into the deep end. We are also, again, especially my generation, Alan, we always think about, oh, well, we've got another Barry Ferguson on our hands. We've got
Yes,
another Al
yeah.
McGregor. These guys don't grow in trees, right? There's a reason as to why they're exceptional. If I'm being honest with you, from what I can see from Ross McCausland, I think he can hit similar heights to those guys that I've just mentioned, right? And that's a huge compliment to him.
Mm-hmm.
I think his touch when he receives a high ball over, because we did it a lot against Aberdeen, how he works and operates within close quarters, I think is excellent. I would encourage him just to keep his head up, keep doing that.
Yes.
There's work to do, but listen, do you know what? None of us, no one listening to this, you and I, anyone else talking about Ross McCausland, no one's saying he's a finished article. But again, it is about being able to develop that foundation of skill that he has, and he has a lot of it.
And you have to look at more. Well, obviously we don't, our medium to long terms like a day or 3 days, but you do need to look at that. You've got to have the balance in, and you can accommodate these. The only way these guys will develop is giving them time and so on, and letting them come on. But as I say, even in that small period of time, what the wee guy's done now. I mean, if we had signed him from Hearts or wherever it would be, and the way he's been playing the past few weeks, I'd be going, I think we've got a good one this week, And obviously, he's very early on in his career. I think even the international stuff and all that as well. So, no, it's definitely looking kind of fine with him. Good as well that we have got competition, as you said, even like Cortez as well, maybe coming over. In a way, I'm sorry about that, Ross, too, but that's another thing that he will need to learn as well, isn't it? And that can only do people, I think, well in terms of their development, but also that whole mental strength, that they're continually going to have to I really need to, kind of hit heights. So no, all for it. But as I say, just when I looked at it, I'm going, who cleared that one there? That was good. And to see the wee man, it was like, now we're talking. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, listen, he absolutely gets stuck in. He does not hide.
No.
He is very, very much establishing himself to be a proper Ranger as well. After what was, I think, just under 98 corners, Alan, we managed to get a third, get the goal that we're looking at. I think I laughed with some of you chaps at the time to say it's so Rangers that it would have finished 3-1 rather than 4-1 or 3-0 or whatever. But listen, do you know what? It's about being able to take the win. Corner comes in from Tav. John Suter gets in the end of the cross. Um, a great a great finish by him. I think a really good header
Yeah.
in terms of how he gets into the position. And it is something that I think that we have been missing and need to do a little bit better in, which is being able to try and see, especially our centre halves, who we know can score goals like this, by the way, right? So again, Suter, Balogun, Connor Goldson,
Hmm.
being able to get the end of some of these corners and crosses and be a little bit more of that kind of attacking threat. Now, again, it would have been it's one of those games where it would be easy to watch it back now because you wouldn't have been tense because you're 2-1 up. Not too much of an issue. There was a Ross County corner where, frankly, I thought I'm going to have to turn away. No,
Two
it
of
was just
them at one
aye,
point. Two of them got one get the header, but you're thinking, what are we doing, Cammy? Yeah.
yeah. And John Suter scores. I think you could see in his celebration, Alan, how much it meant to him. I don't think he had the greatest of games last night. I really
No.
genuinely don't. But again, it's not necessarily about fixating on mistakes. It's about seeing players who, again, when he got that header in and he got his goal, you could just see how much it meant to him. If it gives him the confidence to be able to go forward, I don't know how much he'll play once Balogun's mask gets fitted and he's fit to play. We
Hmm.
might see some more rotation, but it's a goal which for me could serve a lot of purpose in just giving that
Uh,
that wee booster to
yeah.
Suter.
And how chuffed was I, as I say, because I kept on saying every corner, come on,
Yeah.
goals. And yeah, they scored it. The guys in front of me were going, here we go. And that only just added, Cammy, to my, oh, that's Motherwell 3-0 up. I went, they'll probably draw three each. So I was in a roll, Cammy. Other thing too about as you say, in terms of kind of attacking headers at corners, that is something we need to improve. There was something I was doing over the last couple of days and looking at, for example, Amoruso and Amoruso goals. The number of them was just this big centre half going up like Goff would do. And I feel that is something that we must improve on, because with the likes of Golson, obviously, as you say, Balogun, Suter, and so on, the amount of corners we get, we need to do more, Cammy. At least even put in good headers and win some of them.
Yeah, I agree.
But
But I think that this is something that we're capable of doing. I think that you watch the game last night and you are just thinking to yourself, let's mix up, let's try and vary it and stuff. And I think we did do that in parts, Alan. But I think there was also
yeah.
elements where we just missed a slight bit of quality in the cross, but equally we just missed a slight bit of quality in the finish as well. So it's
Yeah.
about creating those chances and being able to get forward. And I think the thing that's been most interesting to me is that you're talking about players now who, and I know we've been fair, right? I think we've been kind of balanced in terms of where we've said some players have played brilliantly, some players,
Hmm.
not so much, but that's fine. That's going to happen between now and the end of the season because you know we need to be realistic, and we do need to understand that these guys are hopefully going to be playing a lot of football. Europe is around the corner in terms of being able to come back. Obviously, we've got Easter Road in the Scottish Cup. Then after that, we're in the semi-finals. Hopefully, we're still involved in all of that kind of process. So there is still a lot of football yet to be played. There's still obviously a lot of league games to get. I think we're at 13 league games, if I remember rightly, in terms of what's left to come.
Hmm.
Not everyone's going to play a blinder, right? What I do think we need to be able to try and do is just make sure that we don't go overboard in terms of our expectations, because it's just about almost taking a breath. And I think that's been my big learning of the last 24 hours is, you're in that stadium last night, taking on all those range of emotions that you've discussed, but we're in this for the long haul now, and you just need to be able just to temper it slightly, because
Uh,
as much as we love everything as Rangers fans being either sugar or shite, there is an element to this where we need to make sure that the players get fully supported. We're right behind them. We've seen that within what's happening at Ibrox, but it's tense, and they're going to feel that tension as well. So
Yeah,
they're
I
human
mean,
at the end of the day.
You're right, and they know there's a balance because we have got demands, my God, especially at Ibrox. So they know that, and that's fine, kind of having it occasionally. But as you say, things like over the past few weeks, and I've heard a few people saying it. For example, Tav hasn't been doing that well. You know, last night he didn't have a great game again. But as you say, these things will happen. You know, players will come off it a wee bit. I think, who was the other boy? Raskin too. But there's various people that will go through. We talked about the wee fella wee Ross as well, and how things have gone. But in this title run, we don't need to be all kind of forgiving and so on, and constantly. But I think we need to ease off a wee bit because all that happens is that for at the back post or whatever, the moaning that we do. If they suddenly end up getting into the shell, and as you say, it ends up becoming like it was before. Oh, if in doubt, let's go back to the horseshoe and no do that. Now I know the manager will push them not to do that, but it doesn't help if we're really on their backs. It's pushing them more towards that. And at this point in time, I think we need to just cut them a wee bit of slack, to be honest with you, and try. And by us being positive during it and keeping the momentum going, and by the way, when things maybe go a bit pear shaped between now and the next 13 games, for goodness sake, just really need to just kind of keep supporting them and
We're,
helping them
we're
as well. Yeah.
we're not going to get, you know, 39 points in the next 13 games. It's not going to happen, right? It's going to be difficult to be able. Now, listen, if we're sitting after those 13 games and we've won all of them, and then trust me, I will be sitting here absolutely eating my hat. Now, that might not
Aye.
make for great podcasting, but I don't care because I'll do it. But if we can, then listen, I will be doing cartwheels up and down the street. But
Yeah.
the reason why I mention it and call it out, Alan, is because it's really important just to make sure that, because I think that lot will drop points too. By the way, they are not great
Absolutely.
shakes.
Yeah. Yep.
So it is about being able to try and just make sure you realise you're in it for the long haul.
I mean, last night we came out of that game, and I wasn't on it, but I heard some people had put in some other sites and things about that felt more like a defeat, and this was terrible, and I'm also disappointed. And I'm like, fucking, wait a wee minute, where were you 3 months ago? Where are we now? And
Where
I
were
know
you?
that you
Where were
get what I
you?
mean, yeah.
Where were you 12 years ago? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
These things all have to get taken into context, right? Of
A-
course they do.
And
But
the
listen,
and yeah, sorry, a very quick one. Last one. Ross McCausland talked about him in terms of where we are with the new manager as well. I honestly thought we'll get to the summer coming up, and then it will be getting a bit of we'll really be competitive. We'll be giving it a go. Jeez, oh, Cammy, in terms of where are we now and how we've improved, and great stuff. And I think we just need to keep that going now. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, okay, well, listen, as I say, we've covered a fair amount there as well. Let's have a wee look forward to our trip to Perth on Sunday afternoon, Alan. That lot play on Saturday. So right now, as you and I sit here recording, let's go. Hope for the best, but plan for the worst. That lot go 3 points ahead. We can go back joint top as long
Yep.
as we win.
Hmm.
We can go top outright as long as we beat their scoreline. And although nothing's handed out in February, and we almost have won titles in March, it's not as
That's
simple
right.
as
Yeah.
that all the time. We still have a job to do. We can sometimes be a little bit negligent and think that it's just a case of turning up. It's not just a case of turning up. These
Yeah.
players
No.
have to be able to put in the effort. They've done that. That's how we've managed to claw our way back into this position. I know people listen to this and go, "Yeah, but Celtic, if they've faltered and they've done that doesn't matter," because as we said at the top of the show, if your opponent's making mistakes, it's fine as long as you're then going to end up making the same mistakes and then allowing them that chance to continue pushing on
We
ahead.
we can only control ourselves, Cammy, and really
Precisely.
that has to be the focus, isn't it?
And I think the big thing for me is this is also about getting up there, securing the 3 points,
Hmm.
being able to see what happens because, and I'm keen to kind of get your thoughts on this, Alan, right? As we've talked about fans' behaviour. Now, I think sometimes we can be a bit manic, and I think that that's part of the love of football.
Yeah.
What I think is going to be really interesting when we get to the course of this weekend, when we look at what the potential, because it's going to be like this kind of going forward. Hopefully, as I say, if we're in a European run, and we're maintaining that, hopefully, then it is going to lead to Celtic playing a Saturday, us playing on a Sunday, right? So what will be very interesting to me will be when we get to these home games that they've got, because, like I say, um, they're at home against Kilmarnock on Saturday.
Yeah.
Will be, is 1-0 enough? Is 2-0 enough? Does it have to be more than that? And I think that they will start to reach a fever pitch. Now, you've already seen fan disharmony.
Yes.
They had to kowtow to the Green Brigade to get them back in the build-up for the Old Firm game at the New Year. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how they end up reacting. So as much as we've spoken for 3/4 of an hour around this idea of how we have felt and that roller coaster that we went through last night at home against Ross County, I still think now we will learn from that. I think that we will exercise some patience. I don't think that lot will. And I think it's going to get very, very tense if, they get to the 75th, the 80th minute of a game and they're not sitting in a winning position. I do think it will start to build up. I think it will, and I actually think that they will be far worse than we would be in the same spot. It's going to be interesting to see as to how that reaction unfolds, because they're not a happy camp over there.
No, and
And
there's
it
a
is
big.
waiting for some cracks to show as well.
Yeah, and there's been such an entitlement. As far as they're concerned, they should win the treble and go into Europe and dominate it. So they're so entitled, it's unbelievable. I'm not going to spend loads of time on them. They're not happy about the manager who kind of came back anyway. He doesn't seem to be particularly happy in there as well, Cammy. Again, all we do is we just need to do the Rangers thing, go win. Obviously, if we can get, by a number of goals, but just keep winning and just keep the pressure on them. Whereas at the moment, we've got a real kind of positivity and a bit of momentum and the new manager and just everything at the moment, which is great. They're a couple of shocks away from, do you know what I mean, just imploding a wee bit. Again, that may or may not happen, Cammy. They might go on a run too. Again, we just need to really be professional, just stick to it and see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, you've said it there. I mean, I know that we want to edge ahead. I totally understand that. You want that. I want that. Everyone listening to this wants that. But we need to be able to stay in tandem with them. We need to be able to try and match them step
Yes.
for step and not fall out of kilter. And that's a huge thing. And that's not, you and I are saying that in a way that we understand the enormity of that task. It's not an easy thing that we're asking to do. But what I would say, and everything that we've spoken about on the show, highlights the fact to me that when you look at the amount of chances that we created against Ross County at home, when you look at the passion spilling out of the players, when you look at the manager getting booked because he's unhappy because of the amount of time wasting, the horrendous decisions from referees.
He's kicking water bottles and all that, wasn't he? It was brilliant.
He was, but I go back to that slogan, it's everything from everyone, and I genuinely believe that we are pulling in that direction, that we definitely have the momentum. We're on a far more solid track than we have been in recent history, and again, like I say, we've got another opportunity to be able to prove that at Perth on Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. And as I say, if we go there and with the right application and so on, Cammy, I think we'll be fine. Just do what we're doing at the moment. Just keep playing that football and, yeah, just back down the roads. And then I think after then, I think it's Hearts at home, isn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That will do us for extra for this week, folks. Thank you to our executive producers, Mike Lee and Paul Myers. Thank you to ZenithCoins.com, our show sponsor as well. Before I thank the most important person on the show, which is obviously Mr. Bradley, I would just like to take this opportunity, folks, to highlight, as I always do, some of the excellent content that we have over on our Patreon site. It's patreon.com/Heart and Hand. Please head on over. Alan has been busting a gut in terms of some brilliant long-running series of shows, one of which is coming to a close pretty soon. I think it's finishing up, Alan. Is that right? Are we there or thereabouts?
Yeah, I'm recording tomorrow. It'll go live on Monday. Maybe some of the regulars haven't heard that it's kind of finishing up, so there'll be some apologies in it. But after, I think it'll be the 52nd consecutive one, and apart from maybe 7 weeks over 4 years, as you'll know, Cammy, because you ended up doing a lot of the editing. I've been on every single Monday, so I won't be going away. I'll be doing loads of ad hoc and the likes of helping yourself and David and doing others, but just this actual series, it seems sensible at week 52, just to kind of, give someone else a chance to shine, Cammy. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to hear, some great content like that, we talk about all the European games that have been on this week as well. We've got some brilliant draft shows looking back in history to not just all things football related, but also cinema, social culture, everything as well. It's absolutely fantastic. Please head on over there because it's only a few quid a month and you can unlock an archive of thousands and thousands of hours worth of brilliant listening. If you'd like to see us in person and with what was that guy's name, Alan? That midfielder, we
It was
signed
not.
him.
It was quite good, wasn't it? I
He was
think it
all
was.
right. Yeah, if you want to come to the Heart and Hand live show in London at Leicester Square with Paul Gascoigne,
That's who it is. The guy that
that's who it
cried.
was.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
trying to think about that there. It's on the 21st of March. Tickets are selling fast. Please jump on to the Leicester Square website to go and grab them. Gaza in great form. It's going to have some brilliant stories. We're looking forward to be able to try and hear all about him, and it's going to be a great opportunity for anyone based down south to be able to try and come along and have a great night talking about the greatest football club in the world. Finally, thank you to my guest this week, who's been excellent, and thank you so much, Alan, for all of that wisdom that I mentioned at the top of the show. You have fulfilled your quota of it and more on the
All,
show this evening.
all the wisdom's gone. But as ever, Cammy, no, I really appreciate it and always love being on extra. So thanks for the invite, pal. Yeah.
David will be back on Monday, folks, to unpack the game against St Johnstone, and I will be back with you next week. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a brilliant weekend. Enjoy, and let's keep the heat.